One, we have taken leverage of technology, increased use of technology to detect fraud, wastage, and abuse patterns. You realize that when members access services in any of the NHF and panel facilities, they receive an SMS notification telling them that their pre-authorization has been approved at a certain facility and the amount. We've also established a fraud and security risk crime unit which goes around to check instances of fraud, wastage, and abuse. We have increased the intensity of benefit utilization reviews, just like what we are doing here today. We periodically do a benefit analysis and share with respective entities and members of the public to know how the scheme is performing. We have done zoning and mapped out areas of probable fraud, and we normally get feedback from the ground. We have instituted a national benefits integrity program. We have an ethics and integrity office that engages staff and periodically carries out stakeholders engagement, telling them areas of potential fraud. We have also developed a whistleblower policy, and we've put into place mechanisms to encourage whistleblowers and confidential information reporting. We're also developing a fraud risk management policy that will set a strong tone from the top to the bottom and put into place control contributions from all units within the organization. We are institutionalizing an annual accreditation of healthcare facility function within the head office, whereby members will be drawn from various departments to carry out the function of accreditation. We'll continue. We are developing a robust code of conduct and policy that define conflict of interest, gives ethics and breaches, enforces compliance, and publishes disciplinary guidelines. We are also partnering with the private sector and other stakeholders so as to engage beneficiaries in creating awareness and the fight against fraud. We've invested in beneficiary education, and part of what we shall be doing in this financial year will be going out and sensitizing our members on the importance of prudent utilization of resources. We continually provide training to beneficiaries to detect and report fraud, wastage, and abuse, and whistleblowing. And the management established a claims verification unit at the headquarters. The purpose of the claims verification unit is to examine all claims that are submitted to the headquarters to ensure that they meet the threshold of medical necessity, and they weed out claims that are suspected to be fraudulent. We also collaborating with state agencies, and if you remember, in 2017 we invited the office of the DCI to probe the loss of millions of shillings through fictitious claims, and a number of facilities were indicted and their ongoing court cases before courts of competent jurisdiction. Currently, NHF is undertaking investigations in 80 healthcare facilities to ascertain allegations leveled against them by members of the public and from our own internal analysis, and the remedial action will be put into place. We also, when facilities requisition for surgeries, especially minor and major surgeries, we normally do pre-authorization, whereby we have a quality and standards department that goes through those sent pre-authorizations to establish that they meet the necessity before approval for members to access services. We also use facilities that use employees to make fictitious claims. What is coming out is that some healthcare providers use their own employees to make fictitious claims. What we are finding is that a facility A, which has 10 employees, and you look at their hospitalization record, you realize that the 10 employees sometimes are admitted in the same facility. We are doing capacity building. Management has deployed auditors to the branches to mitigate payment of fraudulent claims, and for that matter, we have about 93 branches. Recently, the management deployed and mapped out auditors to be going through the claims that are launched through those branches. We have the Ethics and Integrity Office here at the headquarters, and it was established in March 2015 and mandated to coordinate NHF office efforts for anti-corruption and empower staff to uphold Article 10, Chapter 6, and Chapter 13, and Article 232 of the Constitution. We are winding up. I mentioned earlier on that in the last 1 year, the board has suspended 7 facilities for engaging in fraudulent activities. Some of them have resorted to court action. Some of them are still undergoing prosecution in various courts. Apart from the 7 suspended, I also mentioned that there are 80 facilities that are currently being investigated. With those many remarks, I kindly beg to rest it there and open the floor for plenary. Thank you.
An NHIF issue in medical care, fraud is perverse everywhere in the world, and so it is not just NHIF that is going through the problems of fraud. It's almost all insurances in the world that are facing issues related to fraud. So, and it is very widespread in Kenya healthcare system. Probably this is related to our socio-cultural orientation, because we are social people, isn't it? Hello? We are social people, but it is increasing in terms of economic and other impacts to healthcare system. It drains our economies, it puts the organization reputation into risk, and it is very costly to us. Fraud has been defined as the intentional deception or misrepresentation of facts that can result in access to many, and they are perverse because they lead to misuse of funds, as I've said, and of course wastage, allocative inefficiency of resources. When people engage in fraud, it means we are paying out what we are not supposed to be paying, and which is costly in terms of economic. Then it creates inequity, so that people who have no right to access actually access, and those who have actually right to access are not able to access because the resources are used by those who are not supposed to be using them. It also affects governance because it erodes sponsors and beneficiaries' confidence in the reputation of the organization, as I've already said. When people are talking about fraud, they don't look at the member and the provider managed by several groups of people. From NHIF employees themselves, we are not saying we are 100% clean. There are those of us who may actually be encouraging fraudulent activities. The healthcare providers, again, because they want to make profits from what NHIF is paying, so they are likely to either upscale or downscale some services. The scheme beneficiaries, again, this has been very tricky for us because we are also African, and all of us know that when we name a mother, like daughters, we all call them Modoni. Sindio? We call Modoni for our mothers-in-law, and we also just baptize that child the same name as the other one. So sometimes even identification of beneficiaries becomes very difficult. Again, I've said we are very social. We have been brought up to be social. So people share cards innocently. If I hear my neighbor is unwell, I may give my card to the neighbor to go and use it. So that is fraud from the beneficiary's point of view. Fraud agents, including their employers, are also propagating fraud, and other relevant stakeholders, whether it's pharmaceuticals, suppliers, and the like, they are also contributing to fraudulent activities. So what are the key indicators for fraud as Julia has presented? Performing medically unnecessary services for purpose of benefiting. What we have seen is that some packages are abused because they have financial benefits to the provider. We have seen the number of surgeries increase. We have seen the number of dialysis increase. we are seeing a lot of things happening. So providers sometimes are performing medically unnecessary procedures and services to a member, which we also call upcoding. Like when I go to a facility and I'm a member of the managed scheme, sometimes when they see my limits, they are pushing investigations, including lab investigations and others that are not medically necessary, billing for services that were never rendered, that sometimes they sneak in things that in the bill that are not actually representation. And most of us who have used healthcare services, I don't know how many of us go through the bills and question the bills to see why was I billed this one? I don't remember having this one, but it's happening. Falsifying claiming documentation and overstating admission days. Sometimes you've been in the ward for only 2 days, but when the claim comes, it says you are there for 5 or 6 days, so that you are paid more rebate. This especially happens where inpatient is paid by rebate. Then misrepresenting non-covered treatment as medically necessary. We have shared the exclusions, including acupuncture, treatment by chiropractors. Sometimes they are falsified, so the doctor does not want to say it was actually acupuncture or it was chiropractor, so they just put it in a medically convincing name so that it is paid for. Upcoding, that is what I've just been talking about, billing for a costlier service than one which was performed. We have seen cases of where sometimes a normal delivery is coded as a cesarean section, so that because cesarean section is reimbursed at a higher rate. And bundling of services, this means it's like you are fragmenting or segmenting the services so that you accrue more. Like when we talk about operations, let me use the example of operation. You find that they may say laparotomy and appendicectomy, when actually that is one procedure, because laparotomy is the method, is the channel through which you will be able to do the appendicectomy. So you find that sometimes they are unbundling so that they can get more in terms of benefits. Billing a patient more than the copay amount for services that were prepaid for in full. In most facilities, contract A and B, we pay bills in full. It is walk in, walk out for most services. But sometimes you find that hospitals are still looking for finding something to put in the bill so that the patient can be asked to copay. Accepting kickback for patients' referral. This is very perverse in terms of imaging and other services, where you're saying for me to refer to you MRI or CT scan, I would want a kickback. Failure to maintain adequate medical and financial records. This is very perverse. You go and request for patients' files, they are not available. You are asking for financial because as NHIF we are entitled to look at your books of accounts and they are not available, they are not kept well. Because through that you are able then to decipher what is happening. And then refusal to furnish or allow access to medical records, as I've said. Sometimes you want to read case notes of a patient, but the file goes missing, so it becomes very difficult to ascertain what happened.